Haile Selassie, the last emperor of Ethiopia. Haile Selassie was born a king. While this was not a literal fact, his life story made it clear that fate had carved these initials on his forehead, particularly with his direct lineage to the ancestry of King Solomon and Queen of Sheba. And as he grew up, what had only been sensed became fact as he rose to become one of the most powerful emperors of Ethiopia, and ultimately the god of Rastafarianism. In this exploration of Haile Selassie's life and reign, we delve into the captivating tale of a man who transformed a nation, left an indelible mark on history, and continues to be revered by millions even decades after his passing. Haile Selassie, the 225th and last Ethiopian emperor, was born Lish Tafari Makonnen on July 23, 1892 in Ejersagora, Ethiopia. He hailed from a noble lineage, tracing his ancestry back to Menelik I, the legendary offspring of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. His father, Ras Makanon Wold Michael, was the governor of Harar, and his Christian upbringing shaped his worldview from an early age. Selassie received a private education from European tutors, instilling in him a thirst for creativity, knowledge, and a desire to modernize his country. After he suddenly lost his father, who died in 1906, Selassie caught the attention of his uncle, Emperor Menelik II, who lacked a direct heir and practically adopted him. The boy's dexterity made him irresistible to leadership, and his discipline and unique wisdom in weighty matters made him outstanding among his peers. Young Selassie exhibited a remarkable memory, attention to detail, and diligence, which led to his appointment as the governor of Garamoleta at the age of 14. At 20, Menelik II entrusted him with the command of the vast Sidamo province, further solidifying his position as a potential successor. One of his notable endeavors during his governorship was developing a salaried civil service aimed at reducing the influence of feudal lords and empowering the state. Selassie's progressive policies resonated with a significant portion of the population, positioning him as the embodiment of political progressivism in Ethiopia. In 1911, he further solidified his influence and secured a place in history by marrying Waizaro Menen, a great-granddaughter of Menelik II, the revered emperor of Ethiopia. Much like the story of the greatest of humans, Selassie's journey to the throne had its twists and turns. In a surprising turn of events, he found himself bypassed for the crown upon Menelik II's death in 1913. Instead, his grandson Lige Yasu, a non-Tafari, ascended to power, but the young emperor's controversial ties to Islam in a predominantly Christian nation stirred dissent among the masses. Seizing the opportunity, Selassie emerged as the voice of opposition and in 1916 took control, imprisoning Yasu for life. The following year, however, Menelik II's daughter Zaiditu contested the throne, leading to Selassie's appointment as regent and heir. Selassie's international profile began to soar as he actively pursued Ethiopia's engagement with the global community. In 1923, he achieved a remarkable feat by securing Ethiopia's admission to the League of Nations, a diplomatic victory that highlighted his diplomatic acumen and bolstered Ethiopia's standing on the international stage. In 1924, he embarked on a historic journey, becoming the first Ethiopian ruler to travel abroad. His visits to Jerusalem, Rome, Paris, and London solidified his diplomatic relationships and showcased Ethiopia's rich cultural heritage and its aspirations for progress. In 1928, Selassie assumed the title of Negus, king, further consolidating his authority. 2 years later, upon the passing of Empress Zaiditu, he was crowned emperor on November 2, 1930, taking the name Haile Selassie, which translates to Might of the Trinity. Selassie ascended to the highest office in Ethiopia with this coronation, signaling a new era in the nation's history. In 1931, Haile Selassie took a significant step towards institutionalizing his vision for a modernized Ethiopia by promulgating a new constitution. While granting a measure of representation to Parliament, this constitution placed strict limits on its powers. Effectively, it consolidated power in the hands of Selassie himself as he became the driving force behind the Ethiopian government. Recognizing the need to empower the central government and uplift the Ethiopian people, Selassie undertook various initiatives. He established provincial schools to improve education and create a more informed citizenry. By strengthening the police forces, he sought to enhance security and maintain law and order throughout the country. Selassie also progressively outlawed feudal taxation, easing the burden on the populace and further centralizing economic control. Over the next 4 decades, Haile Selassie implemented sweeping reforms focused on refining his people and making his country a stronghold of education and modernization. However, his efforts were interrupted in 1935 when Benito Mussolini's Italy invaded Ethiopia. In 1935, Haile Selassie's efforts to modernize Ethiopia were abruptly interrupted when Benito Mussolini's Italy launched a full-scale invasion of the country. Selassie, resolute in defending Ethiopian sovereignty, rallied his forces to resist the invaders. However, the situation was complicated by divisions among the feudal lords, with some supporting Selassie's cause while others aligned themselves with the Italian occupiers. Selassie strategically deployed troops to Tigray in 1936, where his army achieved a significant victory in the Battle of Tembien. Their triumph, however, was short-lived, as the Italians retaliated by employing mustard gas, a brutal weapon that inflicted heavy casualties on the Ethiopian forces. Despite their courage and resilience, the Ethiopian army was forced to retreat to Mechu, where they made their final stand against the advancing Italian forces. 1936 brought a devastating blow to Ethiopia as it lost its national independence to the Italian occupation. In the aftermath, Haile Selassie was compelled to flee the country and enter exile. Still, despite being physically separated from his homeland, Selassie remained resolute and resorted to every means available to continue the fight for Ethiopian independence. While in exile, he formed a government in exile and directed the Ethiopian people to engage in guerrilla warfare, employing tactics of sabotage, ambushes, and hit-and-run tactics. This guerrilla war became a symbol of Ethiopian resilience and their refusal to accept foreign domination. Throughout the exile, Haile Selassie never wavered in his pursuit of justice and international support for Ethiopia. His most memorable moment came on June 30, 1936, when he delivered a passionate and stirring speech to the League of Nations in Geneva. In this address, Selassie fervently appealed for international intervention to halt the aggression against Ethiopia and protect the principles of justice and sovereignty. His words resonated deeply with many worldwide, as Selassie's plea captured the essence of the Ethiopian struggle and the inherent injustice of foreign occupation. However, it proved unsuccessful. With the outbreak of World War II, Haile Selassie seized the opportunity to secure British assistance in forming an army of Ethiopian exiles based in Sudan. In January 1941, British and Ethiopian forces launched a joint invasion, liberating Ethiopia from Italian control and reclaiming the capital, Addis Ababa, a few months later. Reinstated as emperor, Haile Selassie faced the daunting task of rebuilding his shattered administration and revitalizing Ethiopia. Upon his return, Haile Selassie confronted a nation ravaged by occupation. He devoted himself to rebuilding his administration and enhancing Ethiopia's defense capabilities. He recognized the need to modernize the country and implemented various social, economic, and educational reforms. Numerous young Ethiopians were sent abroad to study and gain insights from other cultures to facilitate progress. Haile Selassie spearheaded infrastructure development, constructing bridges, hospitals, factories, and schools. Backed by the support of Western powers, he gained a reputation as a reformer committed to the betterment of Ethiopian society. Haile Selassie's influence grew, extending beyond Ethiopia's borders, as he played a pivotal role in establishing the Organization of African Unity, or the OAU, in 1963. As one of the founders of the OAU, he advocated for collective African action, fostering unity and cooperation among African nations. His vision encompassed a united Africa, free from colonialism and working towards economic and political progress. Selassie's rule continued until 1974, when mounting challenges such as famine, worsening unemployment, and political stagnation triggered mutinies within segments of the army. The dissatisfaction with his government and the pressing socio-economic issues led to a period of upheaval and marked the beginning of the end of his reign. Despite being initially viewed as a reformer, Haile Selassie's rule took a turn towards authoritarianism and suppression. As he consolidated his power, he grew increasingly paranoid about the partisans who had bravely fought against the Italian occupation. To maintain control and eliminate potential threats, Selassie removed these partisans from positions of authority and replaced them with more easily controlled collaborators. He exercised absolute control over the media, censoring and controlling information flow. Western journalists were banned from the country, further isolating Ethiopia from international scrutiny. The suffering and plight of his people eventually came to light, causing embarrassment to his reign. Anyone who questioned or challenged Selassie's authority faced severe consequences. He punished dissenters and undermined the rule of law. In December 1960, an attempted government coup turned into a violent massacre, serving as a chilling warning to potential plotters. The worsening conditions in Ethiopia, including famine and increasing unemployment, led to a loss of faith in Selassie's government. In 1974, segments of the army rebelled, deposing Haile Selassie and establishing a provincial military government known as the Derg, which embraced Marxist ideologies. Selassie was placed under house arrest in his palace, where he remained until his death. Official reports claimed that he died of natural causes, but unconfirmed evidence suggests that he had been strangled on the orders of the military government. In 1992, his remains were discovered and he was given a proper burial in November 2000 at Addis Ababa's Trinity Cathedral. Haile Selassie's legacy extends beyond his political and historical impacts to encompass his significance within the Rastafari movement. For Rastafarians, Haile Selassie is revered as a divine figure, often referred to as the god of the black race or the Messiah. This unique perspective stems from the belief that Marcus Garvey's prophecy, foretelling the crowning of a black king as the Redeemer, was fulfilled through the ascension of Haile Selassie as Emperor of Ethiopia. The Rastafari movement emerged in Jamaica during the 1930s, influenced by Marcus Garvey's philosophy of Pan-Africanism and the belief in the empowerment and liberation of the black diaspora. Haile Selassie's pre-imperial name, Rastafari Makonnen, became the foundation for his deification by the Rastafarians. Haile Selassie's prominence within the Rastafari movement has had a profound influence on its followers. His teachings and speeches have been revered as sacred texts, guiding adherents towards righteousness and social justice. Rastafarian practices often incorporate rituals, hymns, and chants dedicated to Haile Selassie to connect spiritually and seek divine intervention. Furthermore, Haile Selassie's advocacy for African unity and his stance against colonialism resonated deeply with Rastafarians who saw him as a symbol of resistance and liberation against oppression. His speeches at the United Nations and his efforts to advance the cause of African independence solidified his image as a champion of justice and equality. While Haile Selassie's recognition as a divine figure is primarily within the Rastafarian faith, it has undoubtedly contributed to shaping his overall legacy. His influence extends beyond political boundaries, inspiring generations of Rastafarians to embrace their African heritage, fight against injustice, and strive for spiritual enlightenment. Haile Selassie's life embodies the triumphs and challenges of leadership, underscored by his quest for progress and Ethiopia's place in the world. His charisma, vision, and influence endure to this day, leaving an indelible mark on the pages of African and global history. Haile Selassie, the last emperor of Ethiopia and the messiah of the African race, remains an enigmatic figure whose legacy continues to captivate and inspire intelligent minds seeking to understand the complexities of his reign and the enduring impact he left behind.